Okay, hi Tracy. I have selected the scan from 723 to just kind of go over with you today. I know that this is new for you and some of this information you're just kind of scratching your head about, so I'm going to try to break this down a little bit using the scan so we can I'll show you how I kind of put it all together and what we're going to be looking at. So the scans start with food. And as we move through the food, you're going to see some out of range, in range on the right side. The left side is what we're focusing on. This is where we want to kind of look at what is the scalar waves, in the software when we are running the scan. This is the previous spot. It's a two-step unless you're running an easy scan. I don't know how familiar you are with those steps yet. But what we want to see is less reds on this side, ideally greens and blues. So when we're looking at this in terms of food sensitivity, I just tell clients we're looking at it as a group. We don't need to break it down into individual little elemental cheese versus sheep cheese. People are like, well, I don't even eat those things. What the scan is picking up on is the frequency of where your body is dealing with these in terms of it's just picking up a frequency. So the fact that dairy, casein, cow's milk, this is not the only way that we look at is dairy a sensitivity in my gut. But you do have quite a few. So we're going to revisit that. And we're going to move on. We're going to look at fruits. I'm not going to spend tons of time here. I am going to move down into grains, and you can see you have some consistent reds, oranges over here. We didn't get a lot of conversion, we got some. Grains could be potentially a tricky thing for you to digest and break down. That might be remedied by improving bile flow, enzyme activity, hydrochloric acid. We'll revisit this as well. We're going to move down. Legumes, these are our beans. Peanuts are an actual legume. It's a high allergy food for most people. So are soybeans, depending on the source. Not a lot of reds here, so I'm going to keep moving. Meat, are we sourcing this from, the best sources we can get would be grass-fed, organic, free range. This is where we're dealing with a lot of hormones in our meat now. That's affecting us for sure, increasing some of our inflammatory pathways. So just something to think about. I am not an anti-meat girl, just saying we're looking at the scan as it's showing up here. Seafood. Now, you may not like seafood. I don't really know what your preferences are here, but seafood can come up for a lot of different reasons. Seafood can be a really interesting source of omega-3s, those essential fatty acids that we need for our lipid membranes, our brain health, our cardiovascular system to thrive. We need fats to synthesize hormones, but they also could be coming up as sensitivities. Again, we're in a really high sensitive zone here. Crayfish, that's one I see a lot, and people will say, well, I haven't had that, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? The scan's looking up energy frequencies from really the last 6 months to 5 years. We're going to move on. Another thing I would like to say, though, about seafood is it generally, with our oceans, kind of, is it farmed? Is it wild caught? Are we sourcing toxins? This is where if I see a lot of reds in the seafood, I'm curious about how heavy metals are showing up as we go through the scan. Nuts, all green, really no reds here, but look what happened here. Like, why are we shifting from greens into what looks like less optimal? It could be a number of reasons. It could be that we need more fiber. It could be the nutrients in those nuts we are needing. We don't know. Like, this isn't diagnostic, so we're going to keep moving. Seeds are looking okay. Safflower oil is used in a lot of fried foods. This is our French fries. Most restaurants are cooking with safflower and rapeseed. Lots of sunflower oil in there. It's fine if it's cold pressed, but this can be signaling that you have something inflammatory going down in your diet. So nothing too serious. Spices. Spices moves into herbs and can be interesting to spend time with. I'm not going to right now. Corn, that's the second way that we see corn show up. It showed up in grains and it's showing up here. Common, most people have that flare because our corn is so GMO. Eggs, duck eggs, very rich in cholesterol, gelatin showing up here. Are we having a hard time breaking down some of the amino acids in gelatin? That could be also from your, and if you're taking a collagen supplement, which you are. So just something to think about. All right, here's where it gets interesting, and we start looking at things basically through a lens of functional blood work is how I like to think of this. We are looking at blood lipids. This is the cell membrane of fat. This is a couple different ways that we look at this. This looks really actually decent in this scan. That doesn't mean every scan shows up that way, so I'm going to move down. Ferritin, again, if you're looking at these on your own, I want to remind you, you can just click here and this little information window will show up. Ferritin levels can occur as out of balance, but this is your body's ability to store iron. So when ferritin shows up, I like to put a little pin in all the markers that are looking at how we utilize iron, how iron is circulated, and the fact that iron binding capacity is showing up as well. That is just a little question mark. I'm putting in that heme ferritin cycle of your body. Now, complete blood count. This is a lot of what you would see in your traditional blood work that you would get from your doctor twice a year, once a year, however often you go. And what we're looking for is, again, this hematocrit, person's blood volume that consists of red blood cells. This is telling us that there's something kind of off with the way that your blood is circulating. Potentially, your red blood cells are not maturing to their capacity. Like, we don't know. So we're just going to say, is there inflammation here affecting this pathway? Let's just keep looking. Your fatty acid profile, better on this side again than it is on this side. So we're looking at potential, are we deficient? I don't see that you're supplementing anything. And I also have already looked at these scans, so I know that we're looking at some bile and liver function issues. If I was to put you on a omega-3 fatty acid supplement right away, you would not only not absorb it well, but you would feel gassy and bloated, and it would make you feel worse. So that is not what we want to do, but we want to just look at what is the overall picture of fatty acids and looking at that cell membrane again. Are we looking at markers where our lymphatic system is a little blocked? Have we gained weight in the last few years that seems off? Are we feeling brain fog? Low energy, joint pain can show up when this stuff is not working correctly. The chakras, I won't spend time here. This is that little snip and that energy. We love to look at it, but it's not really that important right here. Digestive function. Now, look at that lovely green-blue, really interesting. Does not mean that that's where we're at all the time, but in this particular moment, this is what it looked like. Now, again, we're losing green on this side. So the body will use, with the scalar wave technology, the body wants to come into balance in every way it can. So where there are a lot of greens, what the scan technology will do is kind of rob the rich to feed the poor. So we're going to take areas where the body is stronger in that moment and try to balance other areas of weakness. So that's what some of that can mean. Histamine showing up. It's 1, and 1 versus a higher number like 9 indicates that this is generally a problem a little bit more long-term. Ferritin is showing up here again. So that's 2 areas we see ferritin, but now we're looking at it through a lens of iron binding again, right? But we're looking at it through a lens of how it supports our insulin, our sugar balance. And I know that you're on a blood sugar stabilizing medication, metformin. So your body's definitely saying, yes, I have some issues here, but generally pretty good. Like, this is a pretty good looking panel. It looks like your sugars are not showing up out of balance too much. The HbA1c, that's what we see on blood work a lot. Your blood sugar in this little snip looks decent. All right, we're moving down to amino acids. Threonine, isoleucine, valine. These are ones that I focus on for the heme pathway, for NADPH. What we see a lot in this field of, even when I get into genomics, where I do the genes for people, is we're seeing a lot of these stressed. We're not converting them correctly because the body's using them for managing toxins and inflammation. So methionine, this is one that I see a lot because we need this to convert into homocysteine. And that homocysteine, when it is elevated for a long time and doesn't convert correctly in the methylation process, is where we start having a lot of inflammation and accelerated aging. So we want to really make sure these amino acids are going where they need to go. So even though hydrochloric acid showed up okay in an earlier thing, we're seeing it show up red here. In this panel, I like to really focus where beans were showing up a lot for you. Certain enzymes can help us break down, or sorry, not beans, but grains showing up for you. How are you breaking down starches? How are you breaking down fats? And now we see that lipase is showing up. This is an enzyme that breaks down our fats. Protease is specific for protein. This could also be where meats are showing up in the food area. So it's really a 3D chess game played underwater is what we're looking at. Just connecting little dots. This is a really big piece right here, and something I'm going to talk about as we go further down. What I'm seeing in your patterns so far, and what I've made notes about, is the sulfur to sulfates exchange. And sulfur is really, really vital in our phase 2 liver detox pathways. And when it's backed up, our sulfuration pathway, we don't basically take the intermediate metabolites that we should be from phase 1 in that sulfuration process and get rid of them. The body recirculates. And there are a lot of interesting symptoms that I'm hearing you say, even the fungal things that are not clearing up, the itchy ears around this sulfur issue. So this is an area I know that would be good to support. Microminerals. Here we're looking at, the various microminerals that we generally do not get enough of. This is where the AO is really fantastic at helping us. Micro support. Instead of just diving in with a big methylated, multivitamin with all the Bs and all the CoQ10 and all the stuff, we get to be really specific and take a finer tool and go through with these little micro minerals. We're going to expand on that as we go forward, but we're going to move down here. Now, B2, riboflavin, is absolutely vital in these phase 2 processes, and I'm seeing a few trending markers with you around not methylating and moving some of these Bs where they need to go. Again, that does not mean we would want to go in with a really large dose of anything. We would want to see where the system is backed up and use the information and your symptoms to create a plan that moves you through clearing those pathways in a really safe way so that we can, run these scans ideally again and feel that things are shifting and changing for you in a positive way. I noticed that beta carotene was the form of vitamin A in your Nutrafol. That is not necessarily the most bioavailable, and you could have genetic issues with converting beta carotene. Beta carotene is from usually plant-based sources, and there are several different types, and retinol is the active form, and that's why I've recommended a supplement that is cod liver oil that has that animal-based retinol that we absolutely need for so many different processes. It is one of my top 10 supplements when we're building our library and really getting into what we need for basics. It also has a lot of those vitamin D, vitamin E, and A. All right, I'm going to move down. pH balance, I mean, this looks basically good. You were hydrated when we ran the scan, that's good. Bone and muscle condition, this is where we start looking at when it says age of discs or ligaments. We're looking at, how can we move? Are we starting to feel like we are aging and getting stiff? Or are we staying mobile? What does our tissue feel like? That's where a lot of these things will show up. And also our joint pain will show up here a little bit too. But we're looking for where bone hyperplasia, this is where we are, this marker might be picking up on where we're laying down collagen as we age just a little bit too thick. And maybe we have fascia work that we need to work through to create more flexibility and movement. As we age, fascia starts to, or our collagen system starts to lay down collagen versus elastin at a higher ratio. So we start to feel that stiffness. It is reversible, as you know, as a massage therapist. All right, brain nerves. I love to look at these and just see what's in and out, what kind of trends. I did see nervous system sympathetic function trending for you on a couple of your scans. That just means most people are in a state of that flight or fight action mode more than we are in that parasympathetic, and we generally should be that 80-20%. We should be 80% parasympathetic, in that rest and digest, learn, be immersed in our surroundings, be present in our body, versus that sympathetic, what is my past, what is my future, what do I need to be worrying or concerned about, what are my problems. All right, here, a lot of people get worked up over stroke volume. This is really just looking at, it is a picture of heart health, picture of our cardiovascular, the way that we might feel, again, that tissue being elastic and hydrated and stretchy versus starting to feel more stiff and condensed. This has a lot to do with our lymphatic health, a lot to do with how we are metabolizing nutrients, toxic buildup. So overall, not a bad looking panel, definitely areas we could improve. Collagen index, bones, again, that kind of showed up with hyperplasia back there a little bit. We might be looking at, bone density. Are we absorbing our fat-soluble vitamins that are contributing directly to that bone density? Do we need to do more weight-bearing exercises to support, especially in light of a hysterectomy, as we have less of those hormones being synthesized? Tendons, joints, cartilage, this is going to show up where we have pain going on for sure. So that's consistent. Endocrine glands, definitely some space here where it's consistent also with what I had texted you earlier, where we're seeing the different various areas of the brain, the hypothalamus, the anterior and posterior pituitary. These areas are showing up a lot more, indicating that there are some neurotransmitter issues, and where we talk about lack of motivation, easily falling asleep and staying in deep sleep but having a difficult time waking up. I wonder how this brain activity is having to do with that. I love when bags under the eyes come up. You're welcome. And here we're looking again just a little bit more at some of those hormones. Hormones absolutely matter right now. Like, they absolutely matter. But remember, we're synthesizing hormones from fat. And there's so many factors here. I am not suggesting go out and get on hormone replacement therapy. I know you've done some of that. I'm also not saying that it's a bad idea. But we do want to be looking at the whole picture and seeing where we can support nutritionally before we move into just adding pieces before we know what's happening with other areas. This is a really good looking panel. Right here, all those greens, blues, really, really good looking. This is one snippet though. All right, so here we're starting to see some of those bile issues showing up, consistent with the other types of scans that I've run. And again, this is where we can break it down. Sulfation, phase 2 sulfation. I have no idea why it's down here instead of up here by the other 6 pathways, but I think they added it more recently. But sulfation definitely is showing up, and we have a good plan in play for supporting that. Such a vital and important area to support, and you can see that other areas are doing quite okay, right? So bilirubin, though, showing up a couple different times. Bilirubin showing up here, bilirubin showing up here. Bilirubin is looked at as really one of your very vital antioxidants, and there's a lot to study with bilirubin, but it comes down to how the quality of the liver being able to produce the bile and your ability to detox through those intermediates that are showing up from phase 1. If we don't have this working, things are circulating in our bloodstream that are causing oxidative stress, which is, as we know, premature aging. It just can really back up our system. And when we talk about backing up our system, I want to spend just 1 second here in lung function. See, we were looking pretty decent, but where I said the body will kind of rob the rich to feed the poor, and these little frequency adjustments that it can make. This is a good indicator that there is something that we are not exhaling in those metabolic pathways. 83% of our detoxification ability through the metabolic pathways is done through exhalation. So you might say here, can I clean this up just a little bit more through conscious breath? And honestly, look at that perfect score. I think that AO collagen is doing great for you. That is, I've actually never seen a perfect skin index score. That is awesome. Thyroid, we're gonna not spend tons of time there, not much to see. Allergies and pollens, gonna move through those. I know they're issues and I'm not sidestepping them, but I wanna get to fungus. In this particular scan, this one looked a little bit better, but I took screenshots from other scans of this looking not so great, and you have a lot of conversion. Only 4 greens showed up on this side. So I'm looking at fungus as kind of a player when we start to talk about iron metabolism. Fungus and mold love free roaming iron that is not bound with copper properly, and that's part of that heme ferritin cycle that we want to be thoughtful of, and especially with your symptoms. Now again, this is a better looking scan, but the ones that I took screenshots of, your molds were quite high, and I had 3 vital scans to compare, so this one was the best. But I definitely have seen trending areas with mold. Again, we were looking at heavy metals around fish. Nothing too serious here, but there's definitely trending markers to improve on. Parasites, people get really freaking out about parasites, but look at your left side here. Really a lot of good markers with a lot of parasites showed up on the right side, but that's pretty normal. Okay, so that takes us to the end. I'm going to close this and open up with the next part of this video, which is going to be your plan. All right, this is the PDF version of what I'm sending you for your care plan, and I'm going to be emailing this to you as a PDF as well, but I just wanted to go over some of the scan results and ultimately what our goals are in the next few weeks. So what I noticed was a lot of the scans showing trends around your nervous system and adrenal glands, showing signs of fatigue, detox and drainage pathways like we talked about, especially around sulfuration, gallbladder, lymphatic system. Up here, congested, backed up, but more specifically, we're looking to support you slowly so we do not overwhelm your system. Also seeing signs of immune system stress, repeated fungal patterns like some of these that I told you that I saw and, logged into my assessment, where we see a lot of fungal infections, but fungal markers, candida markers, but molds really showed up for you. And molds and fungus, when I see a lot in those categories, I'm really looking at ferritin, iron metabolism, and those detox pathways that support the heme cycle. And I will move down here just to talk about what we want to do slowly. I have written out intentionally to work through an 8-week plan. You do have follow-up appointments to schedule with me, and we generally do that every 2 weeks. So that would be perfect for you to kind of receive this information, do the things that, sound like we can work through these things slowly together, ask questions, work a little deeper with AO. But really the first 2 weeks are opening up those drainage pathways so you can safely move those toxins through your system, support your nervous system, really focusing on sleep quality. This is where journaling might be really handy to come in and where are we with what is changing. Strengthening your foundation, that's really what we're working at. Weeks 1 and 2, opening the drains and calming the system. Ultimately supporting lymph, liver, emotional detoxes here. Certainly everything has to do with our emotions. And I have some ways that I want to go over that with you. I know that you are very familiar with a lot of these already. Castor oil packs. I recommend using organic cotton. This would be up over your liver area. And the reason organic cotton is important is because a lot of cotton, as we know, a lot of our fabrics, they have potential, especially when they're laying over our liver with a substrate such as castor oil, to be toxic. So we need to make sure that we are sourcing the actual castor oil pack from somewhere that is not going to contribute more toxins. But what castor oil packs can gently do is activate that liver gallbladder flow and really help calm inflammation. I sleep so soundly when I have a castor oil pack on. I have absolutely loved starting that practice. I do not do it every day, which is why I have written for you twice a week. If I did it every day, it would overwhelm my system 100%. So be mindful of that. Gentle movement. You're really aiming for light walks. I know that you love to swim. That's amazing. Hopefully you're getting some good swimming in. Rebounding. Rebounding has been really well studied. That's that little mini trampoline. Really well studied for moving the entire lymphatic system through. I cannot tell you how it has changed my lymphatic system, but also weight loss really starts being like, I start shaping my body up the way that I want it with 5 minutes a day of rebounding. And I'm not kidding. It is literally amazing. And I do not have an expensive rebounder. I have a $65 one from Amazon. Totally up to you. Do your own research on those. I cannot at this time afford the $600 name brand rebounder, but a mini trampoline is what you're going for. It's considered low impact, but do your research on that. Dry brushing, we know that's really excellent. This is just another support for lymphatic drainage. Warm, nourishing foods. Now, it's summer. We haven't discussed diet a lot, and I don't get into diet huge at this phase. It's certainly something we can go over more in our follow-ups. But right now, you're working on adding in sulfur-rich foods. Broccoli, sprouts are not listed here, but they're one of the most amazing anti-inflammatory foods. You're really working on adding in just a little bit more sulfur to support that sulfuration pathway. Now, we don't know, is it a deficiency Is it genetic? We don't know, but right now we can see through the scans that your expression, either way, is looking like sulfuration is backed up. So perhaps adding some more sulfur-rich foods could be a benefit here. The AO is great at supporting you here with frequencies, working with inner voice, 3 to 4 times a week, just calming that nervous system. I don't know where you are with your journey with this. We haven't checked in for a while. I am starting a training, a pretty in-depth training through August that's not going to be very time inclusive, but it's going to be very good for going over questions, answering, questions, going over individual scans, but also talking about these things in a little bit more detail, where we work with the AO for lymphatic, liver, or mold support, where we can really kind of hack that scalar wave technology to support our system gently. So, of course, we're drinking water, we're making sure we have minerals in there, but one thing that is vital is as we are doing some of these things to draw out toxins and open up these pathways, is we're thinking about a binder. Now, binders come in a lot of different forms. For years, the only binder that I knew or understood was activated charcoal. Since then, I've advanced with a lot of trainings and education in the functional genomic world. This one is recommended very highly by Quicksilver, and there's really good reasons for that. If you have any questions, I recommend, reach out to me. I can definitely help you answer those, but it's really well researched and includes several different types of binders for even like arsenic and heavy metals. Really important so we don't overwhelm our lymphatic system or induce a, nausea, headache, fatigue type Herxheimer's response to some of this work we're doing. Taking 3 to 4 capsules with 8 ounces of water once daily on an empty stomach. And you might want to consider the time of day you do that, because it needs to be 30 minutes before or at least 2 hours after. So, of course, with 8 ounces, some people take this before bed. I don't like drinking anything 8 ounces of water before bed. I like to not have to get up and, so, but also be thoughtful of medications or other supplements, because what this binder will do is absorb. It will kind of just encapsulate and absorb and help get this out through the system, through your bowel movements. So that's our goal. All right, moving into, I'm just going to briefly go over weeks 3 and 4. And this is always going to be adjusted. We're going to be meeting for those 2-week follow-ups, but I do want to get into just a little bit of where we go after week 1 and 2 for you to kind of see that this is what things can look like in about 3 weeks. Everyday baseline support. Now, how I have this written out here, and again, I'm sending this to you. Some of them have hot links so that you can see, oh, well, I don't have that. Where do I get that? What is that about? Hydrogen tablets. This is in your full script email that I emailed you today. This is telling you how to use it. There is an area at the bottom of this PDF that discusses in more detail why I put these in here, what they're supposed to be helping you support. And if you have any questions, again, I'm here to answer. But this is very important. This one I do daily. And it is a really excellent oxygenator. It helps scavenge some of those inflammatory situations that are going on when we have backed up systems. Very, very safe, very, very helpful, not expensive. You do need to dissolve in at least 16 ounces of water. This might be the same time you take that binder, right? You'd be totally fine to do that. Digestive bitters. This is something I developed for really helping process that situation with the slow and sluggish bile and those intermediates, those nasty intermediates that start developing when we are not clearing our toxins in that phase 2 arena very well. So digestive bitters really gets in there, helps move that bile, helps support those digestive enzymes naturally. I've noticed since I've been taking them before meals, even before my smoothies, that I have a way better outcome with digestion. My scans look better, I feel more energy, and I'm losing my belly fat. More importantly, the belly fat that's been hormone driven. So, really, really important. And then, of course, we talked about the binder. Going forward, I've moved you to once per week versus what I had earlier. I had you doing this once daily, and I'm going to update that because I want it to be only twice a week. So it would be twice a week, and then that following, after about 2 weeks, we'll just kind of assess and see how you're feeling. But my guess is we're going to be moving into that binder just once a week. And this is the way that we would start using the AO Scan library. If you're not using it, which I don't think you are now, you don't really even have that many supplements from what I can see. That's some of the training that's going on in August, is me helping people really create this custom supplement list. Some people, think that we are taking things every day, and that's great, and it's really not to ever be taking something every day other than those few things that I gave you up there for very specific reasons. Our body changes, we shift, we need different things. And I see a lot of people making mistakes with supplements and just taking too many. So what we're trying to do is, at first, we want to just enter these things into the library and see what comes up for us. Without any investment, without buying the supplements, you can scan these in based on their information. And that's what I go over in my training. You have access to that training now. One thing that I noticed is the Nature's Made. Please throw that out. It is really low quality, contains corn syrup derivatives. I wrote a blog on this, and I will share in the email. But very, very important to make sure using a whole food vitamin C, something that I have made for years, sourcing acerola berry, camu, lemon peel for bioflavonoids, orange peel, really, really vital that we get it from a pure source, so the body has that bioavailable pure source and not, these derivatives. This is more oxidative stress. And then I have in here the way that we can add this to the scanner in doses. So most people do well to add a 1 capsule dose and then a 2 capsule dose. And you only take this when the AO scan indicates it. We don't need vitamin C every day. Your Nutrafol looks great. This is a really general multivitamin. It did have iodine and beta-carotene in forms that I was not a huge fan of. So I would love to just see when the AO scan brings it up, because again, it has a lot of those B vitamins. You don't need those every day. AO Gut and Youth, continue scanning and just use as guided. Put that in there in the doses that you can based on, the supplement facts. All right, this is where we get into more targeted support. And I'm just going to scroll down to show you. This is what we have right here. Not very many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and you can put these in anytime. You don't need to buy them. I know you don't have them. I have where to get them right here, this full script. I'm going to just go over this a little bit with you. The Neuromag, this is one that is very, very important for mental health. This particular type of magnesium passes the blood-brain barrier, really helps support feelings of safety, feelings of calmness, feelings of well-being. That's one of my favorite magnesiums. Also very good when we're sensitive to brain saturation of other toxins. PQQ, this is mitochondrial support. Molybdenum drops, add 1, 2, and 3 drop doses 1 to 2 times a day. You could just say 1 to 3 drops and work that through yourself. Very, very, very important for that sulfuration process, as is riboflavin or B2. I had you add half a tablet and a full tablet dose. P5B, this is an active form of B6, very, very important for conversion processes that get kind of complex, but I'm seeing you have a lot of trending markers that says this would be helpful. Yep, we already talked about C immune, added at 1 and 2 capsule doses. Blood Chi is also from Instinctively Pure. This one has a lot of natural resources for iron support, but not in a synthetic form. It's from grass-fed beef liver. Other herbs that help drive it into the circulatory system, very supportive of the spleen. Arthritis aid. This one is excellent for inflammation, very specific to the type of inflammation we might develop in our older phase of life, more towards that arthritis type. Vitamin D spray and fermented cod liver oil. These are going to be those fat-soluble vitamins that everyone should have in their scan library. That one is purchased through AO, just like your other ones were. This one is an Amazon link. I get mine directly through their company on their website, but you may not want to order 3. The bottom of this, like I said, the end of this PDF is going to go over why I've added these, what their benefits are. So you have a nice little thing. Print this out if you want to. Arthritis, it supports those GABA pathways. It has cat's claw turmeric, ashwagandha. Very good for joint pain, stiffness, muscular tension. And it really comes up in such good times. Adam just had a gout flare up and it came up for him just spot on right when he needed it. All right, so that is it for this. I'm going to be emailing this to you. You have a full script recommend that comes as a separate email. And if you have any questions at all, let me know.